Hey guys, EST here, and today in this video we're going to cover if you have to leave your house for one reason or another. I know the biggest thing on people's mind when I say that is wildfires, but you never know. I mean, there have been biological spills or, contaminations. Over 20 years ago in my home state, I remember hearing about a train that derailed. They evacuated the whole town, and that's good because it exploded and took out about a third of the town. And, mudslides are a thing. Severe regional conflicts of some sort are a, distant possibility. So at any given point, you should be ready to leave your house in a pretty big hurry. And usually people get really focused on, well, I cut 10 seconds off by doing this. That's wonderful, but that's kind of insignificant. But people who take like 2 hours to absolutely pack, both of their cars or whatever to get out of the way of a wildfire, that could be dangerous. So that case I just said right there, where you have time, but you don't have unlimited time. Like you don't have a day. You've got, more like a as soon as possible, but probably not the next 3 minutes kind of scenario, where every minute could be dangerous, but it's not like you can see the fire from your house. But then there's, oh look, a mushroom cloud. I kind of want to drive, upwind of it and away from it. That is unbelievably unlikely, but let's just say in general, sometimes you got to leave fast, sometimes you got to leave slow. Usually it's somewhere in the middle, but the faster the better. So these top 5 ways that you can be prepared at any given point to leave your house, or just be mobile, or just prepare for an evacuation, I think would be the proper title I'll put on this video. So the first one isn't so much like an item that you need to get, it's more of a thing you should do, which is always keep about half a tank or more in your car. As soon as it hits half, fill it up, because that maximizes the distance you can go. Now you might be thinking, oh, well, a big SUV or truck is gonna, get less of a distance than like some little tiny car. Not necessarily true. I mean, a lot of SUVs have like a, 18 to 20 gallon tank. I mean, it can vary. And then they get like, 20 some miles per gallon on the highway. And then my little car has, they claim a 14 gallon tank, but I've never put more than like 11.5 into it when driving it way past E. But it gets like 35 miles per gallon on the highway. So the average vehicle can go about 500 miles. I mean, you can run the calculations for your own car, but that's just a nice, number baseline to have in your head. So on a half a tank, you can go 250 miles, which is pretty decent. That should at least get you to another gas station that's still in service in case of a very widespread event. I mean, I'm thinking, California wildfire, yeah, that'll get you to somewhere that's open and hasn't been abandoned and isn't, closed because they evacuated or whatever. But boy, Hurricane Katrina, I don't know. I mean, you'd really be looking and the lines would be pretty bad. I'd say in general, for the average thing you'd have to leave your entire city for, or at least your house, you're probably going to go 5-10 miles and then just stay with a friend, stay with a family member, or go to like a hotel or whatever. That's the most common. I mean, the scenarios that I'm thinking is the derailed train. It's just like, hey, you just got to get 5 miles away. Just go somewhere. So speed would be prioritized over distance. And I would, in your planning, prioritize speed over distance. So, I mean, wildfires, I don't know, I'm in Wisconsin, but you got to move, 50, 100 miles? You could probably get that on a quarter tank. I mean, a quarter tank in my car could get about 125 miles. But I mean, let's say you live in a not very populated part of like Washington State or Montana. You might have to drive quite a lot of miles to get somewhere, with infrastructure and, that has enough room for a giant evacuation and find another gas station or another hotel. So it depends on you. I mean, if you live in a very densely populated state with a ton of infrastructure and stuff around you, okay, maybe don't prioritize this one as heavily. The last mass evacuation I saw, where it was like the whole city, and it wasn't even mandatory, it's just people decided to leave, was the tornado damage, 7-8 years ago in Wisconsin. In my area, it took 3 days to get the power back on. That was rough. And I just drove 10 miles south to stay with a family member because they had air conditioning. And power, but let's be honest, I'm prioritizing air conditioning. Your boy don't do the hot, okay? I don't do that. They had a crazy screaming 1.5-year-old at the time who woke me up like 8 times in the night along with them, so that was pleasant, but it was cool though. But that same event, I heard some of the smaller towns with like 5,000 to 10,000 people in Wisconsin, they weren't going to get power back for 2 weeks because they weren't being prioritized because they prioritized the places with like 100,000 people or 50,000 people. So a lot of the residents just up and left. And it wasn't really a rush. I mean, it was just leave whenever. They had all the time in the world, but that's not always the case. Like the big train explosion, if you want to look it up, there's great footage on YouTube. It was Wyawega. I guarantee anybody in Wisconsin can spell that, but it's Weyaudwega. That's like, hey, this could explode any second. You gotta go. Once again, speed over distance, and that is much more common. It's either who cares levels of time where it's like, oh, well, the wildfire is going to be here in 12 hours, so leave, Or, well, there's no power and it's not coming back, so at your leisure, maybe leave to a different city that does have, internet and electricity so you can like pay your online bills, maybe do some semblance of work. So between speed of leaving, distance you have to go, and the third factor, which is the amount of time you'll be away, that's what you should plan for. So just in general, those are the common scenarios, is a big outage, a big, weather damage, like a mudslide covering half the town, and they just need people out because either they're choosing to leave or because they're actually in danger of a continued event. An earthquake especially starts knocking down buildings and stuff. It's just not safe to be in the city. Now, if you're in a suburb, who knows? If you're in an apartment building and it was damaged, like, you gotta go. And you might not be coming back for a very, very long time. But typically it's very short term. I mean, even with wildfires, though, it could be 2 weeks. I know that with the Waiawega incident with the train exploding, it was 18 days. It was, by the way, 2,300 people. For that incident, by the way, immediately there were fireballs that were visible from 13 miles away because it was liquid propane gas that was actively leaking. And electricity and natural gas service to 25% of the city was disrupted, and the water had to be turned completely off because of a rupture in the water main. So that's get up and leave immediately level right there. And now that I'm reading up on it, apparently there was no absolute gigantic explosion. It was just a series of smaller ones that caught a couple buildings nearby on fire and damaged some infrastructure. But I guess the fire eventually went out. You guys should look into it. It's an interesting scenario. But I mean, looking back at the last 100 years, there have been chemical spills. There was a molasses spill that killed an unbelievable amount of people. Apparently, molasses is very deadly. So, I mean, you never know. I mean, there was an air-bursted meteor above Tunguska. Obviously, that's what they suspect it was. And then there was another air-burst meteorite at that point. It was in Russia just, 10 years ago or something? Airbursted, took out a bunch of building windows, and if it was a little bit closer, it would have leveled buildings. And apparently events like that happen, pretty regularly. I mean, it's like, what are the odds it'll hit you? But it's just, you never know. Like, you can't plan for everything and just say, well, it's definitely going to be a wildfire. Then all of a sudden there's an earthquake or a meteor or a riot. And it's not safe. You got to go. So instead of trying to plan for exactly what's going to happen, just think, I got to leave. It'll probably be fast and I might need to leave for 2+ weeks. So just plan for that in your head. And then, like I said, you want to maximize the distance by having at least half a tank full of gas so that you can virtually guarantee you can get to the next open gas station somewhere pretty far away. Now, as far as storing gasoline, it's hard to do. You can use stabilizer, octane booster, and fill up your can with 91 octane in the first place and get ethanol free so that it doesn't sort and all this stuff. But that's just a giant fire hazard. You're more likely to get affected by storing 5-10 gallons of explosive fuel in your garage than you are to have an event like this actually happen and need the extra 100 miles that you get out of that. So I wouldn't do it. I mean, that said, I've got a little 3-gallon to fill up my mower and my snowblower. So all year round I have fuel. So if you have time before you leave, just raid that, unless you live in an apartment and don't have it. Everybody's different, but I wouldn't store fuel inside your apartment. That would be insane. In some states, it's actually illegal to store, X amount of gasoline on your premises, no matter where you live. So I think that's going a step too far. It's too dangerous. So I kind of mixed step one with, okay, why are you leaving? How are you leaving? And what's realistically going to happen? What's the most likely to happen? And I'd say weather events and some kind of unnatural disaster. And with all the scenarios, like I said, speed and the amount of time you're going to be away from home should be prioritized over distance in almost any case. So let's get back to the list here. One thing you should always have in your car is a paper map or multiple paper maps or one of those big books of, paper maps of the entire US. I mean, if you're going to spend $6 on a map, you might as well just get all the maps. For $20-$30, you can still order them online, up to date, 2020 models. If you think about it, your smartphone requires GPS data, which, okay, nothing's going to knock the GPS satellites out of orbit that would be oh, I'm just casually leaving for a couple of weeks. That'd be end of the world level crap. Where are you even going at that point? But it also requires data to download the street names and stuff. That is not programmed in. That would be gigs of data, and that's just not how, especially Google Maps works. You can download offline maps onto your phone, but they take up a lot of space. But a lot of times you can move the database to an SD card. Not always, though. So that's a thing, but honestly, paper maps, I mean, unless they get wet or burn or something, you can buy waterproof ones printed on basically glorified Tyvek, aka blueprint paper. You should be good. I mean, just consult the map and then, chances are you'll be driving somewhere that you're not familiar with, at least in some cases. Some cases, just call up your aunt and, hey, can we stay at your place? Or, tornado took out half our town. They'd be like, yeah, cool, come on over. But hey, I mean, if the cell phone tower doesn't have power, you ain't calling anybody. So you might just be driving, you got no data, and, well, Now you don't know where you're going. The other thing is I would almost advise right off the bat, unless it's like we got to get out of here at the highest possible speed, and even then just risk a speeding ticket, just saying, you probably won't be taking the highways because everybody's taking the highways and they're going to be jammed up to an absolute crawl. You want to take, county roads, county highways, service roads, side routes, whatever. What if you don't know those by heart? Like, you know how to get to your friend's place, 30 minutes away, but maybe not if I don't take this route. Yeah, paper maps, very, very, very important. A lot of gas stations actually still sell them, especially truck stop style ones. So for number 3, it's just a little bit of paper currency because a lot of power outages, the stores were still kind of open after a day or two. The gas stations were open. They had a generator or battery backup running the pumps. But the internet and the electricity were down inside the store, or bare minimum the internet, so they couldn't run credit cards. So they just put up a sign that says cash only. Well, guess what? The ATMs weren't working either. Plus, we've all forgotten our wallet and then filled up with gas and it turns into a whole thing, right? So I keep technically a credit card hidden in my car as well. But it's smart to just have, $60 to $100 sitting in your car. And by sitting, I mean extremely well hidden. We're talking like Ziploc bag rolled up and under the steering column secured really well with good tape so it doesn't, get in the steering column. Maybe an envelope under the mesh on the underside of the passenger seat. Maybe under the frame of the back seat. Maybe under your spare tire in the trunk. Just somewhere that won't get wet and won't get dirty, but also wouldn't be obvious to somebody in your car, like breaking into your car. So probably not the glove compartment. That's just asking for it to get stolen. So yeah, a lot of the stores, a lot of the, critical stuff that they're like, we should be open because we're important and people need this, like the gas stations. They just said, yeah, cash only. They wrote everything down by hand. I know, so terrible. Like, how did people exist in the 1970s doing everything on paper? Just kidding. It's like 3rd grade math. But yeah, you're going to want some bills, and especially small bills. Don't just go, okay, I got 5 20s. Well, what if you need to buy something for $5 and they're like, sorry, we're running low on change because everybody's paying with big bills. You want it to be as modular as possible. So the 4th item that it would be really nice to have to prevent a very dire situation would be a tire pump. In case you've got a low tire or you've got like a small leaking, slowly leaking hole in the tire, you can make it quite a ways, just driving 10, 20 miles, rechecking it, repumping it up, and then going again for at least, small stuff. A lot of people say, well, put Fix-A-Flat in your car. Those are pressurized. It gets hot in your car in the summer, and they have been known to explode. That actually happened to my friend. It was very unpleasant. Damaged the inside of his car immensely. So, think about it. What would you do right now if you had a flat tire? Well, call for a tow. Well, the, tow truck companies are out of power, out of service at the moment. And maybe your phone doesn't work because your city's out of power. Oopsies. Oh, you just drive into a gas station, use their pump. Well, the gas station doesn't have electricity, so now you're not moving. That's not good. Especially if there's like a fire coming, then you gotta, wave down somebody, jump into their car, hope it's not full, transfer all your stuff that you crammed in your car. It's a nightmare. So I would say definitely have, especially a mechanically operated pump in your car. A lot of those piston-driven ones, you drop them and they don't work, or any little impact, or they're just cheap Chinese crappy ones. It's not the easiest thing in the world to find, but if you just search for bicycle pumps and then make sure one can go up to like a fairly high PSI, I think average is like 33, 34 PSI for a car tire. Those are nice. And I will say that your spare tire, it needs to be pressurized to a lot higher. It's like, it'll say on the side, it's usually like 50, 55 PSI or something because it's smaller. And also you usually can't exceed, I think, 45 miles an hour while driving on it. And it's going to sound like crap and handle terribly. But it's going to be even worse if you slap it on and it's got 10 PSI in it. So, seriously, go check your spare tire right now. It's probably not at the right pressure. So I would say keep one in your car somewhere, probably near the, spare tire. And a hand-operated mechanical one is going to be a lot tougher than like, cigarette lighter-driven whatever one. And if you want to get real fancy and like mount it somewhere, just look up on the internet how to mount a fire extinguisher in your car, because it's a really common thing required for drag racing and like amateur track racing. They will say you have to have one mounted in your car somewhere. And people have these really cool systems like straps and stuff and how to like bolt it to the frame and do it safely. The guides are wonderful. So just pretend, okay, I'm doing a fire extinguisher, except really I'm doing a tire inflator, a pump. You can mount it to like your hatchback, the actual door, and it'll look really sleek. Like you're real prepared. It looks very rally. So if you've seen my main channel, you know that whenever I do a top 5 list, usually they're in no particular order. And also I cheat every single time. This video is no exception. The final item is a emergency bug out bag, which is literally every single thing that I didn't put in the video. Oh yes, a bag full of everything I haven't mentioned yet, but I will kind of break it down. There's 2 major styles and philosophies for bug out bags if you look them up on the internet and just look up what should be in them or best, item list or whatever. or just go watch my video on it on my channel. There's, oh my gosh, end of the world, most basic level, whatever. I'm going to throw everything in it. We got fire starting stuff. I'm going to go live in a tent in the woods made out of tarps. And, like what kind of emergency would that even be? Then again, I'm literally describing my bug out bag. Because it's worst case scenario. Oh, giant, car pile up on the highway. You can't move. You're stuck on a road and you can't reverse. Well, now that's it. And then in Wisconsin, I guarantee there's woods on both sides of the highway or the county road or whatever. Well, I guess they're spending the night either in the car or in the woods. I prefer in the woods so that you can light a fire and not have to burn your fuel. So that's like extremely bad scenario. That's almost like war broke out or like zombie apocalypse or something. But I mean, with my bag, I'm truly prepared for everything. And it's like saws and stuff and like hatchets and, cooking materials, a little bit of food and all that. But then you've got a bug out bag that's just like, oh, I got to leave town for like a week or two because of a hazardous situation, maybe even a day. And then you think, okay, well, cell phone chargers, maybe like a solar little thing, a battery bank with a solar panel on it that can charge anything. Maybe an old, $15 Garmin GPS unit because those work on just GPS, no data. They have internal maps that are probably out of date, but whatever. I mean, how often do roads move? And then a charger for that, a spare charger for your existing phone, maybe even backup batteries for something, maybe flashlights, batteries for them. Maybe a road flare, preferably an LED road flare, because road flares, you get a little friction. They like to light up and burn your whole bag down. If you think you might have to sleep in your car, okay, like a sleeping bag in case it's cold, that'd be cool. Maybe some hand warmers, those are nice. Couple lighters, because you never know. I mean, it's nice to be able to light a fire in some scenarios. But really, if you're just going to the next town over, you ain't going to light a fire in the hotel's parking lot. They get kind of mad. So I'd say a little bit of high-density filling food, some kind of granola bar with high sugar, or, some kind of pro survival bar, Cliff Bar or something. Maybe some good high nutrient shakes, like a meal replacement shake, that kind of stuff with all kinds of vitamins and all that. And maybe some water. I mean, it's pretty heavy. I'd prefer just a water filter, but, if you're in a fairly civilized, calm, but urgent, get out of the city and go to the next city over thing, you're not going to pull over at a lake and start, filtering water, but you could. I mean, and it weighs a lot less. It seems like a silly thing to do when probably you could just drive 10 miles and go to a grocery store and buy a Pepsi, but, a good water filter is like $17. They could do like 1,000 gallons and they weigh like a pound. So, I mean, throw it in. And then, change of clothes just because, if you got to leave real quick with just like grab the bag and go. Like, there could be an explosion or there's chemicals coming your way or there's a mudslide that's gradually moving through the town and it's going to hit you in like a minute. Or even if you have 5-10 minutes. I mean, just think about scrambling. Oh, what do I need? What do I need to bring with me while you're panicking? The adrenaline's going. And you've got 5-10 minutes, you're going to miss something. So just pre-pack the bag and have it all set to go. Just keep it in the closet, keep it by the door, keep it, in utility room, I don't know. Something you can just throw in the car and be like, boom, I'm good. I've got a couple days worth of food and water just in case, more as a convenience so we don't have to stop. Maybe throw some toilet paper in there because you might not find a place with an open bathroom and you might have to use the backup bathroom, nature. So, I mean, food, water, clothes, heat, I mean, I'm pretty much just naming the things that you absolutely need. And then past that, it's convenience things and, urgent communication things. Maybe a weather radio. That would be a huge thing to put in your bag. And like I said, a solar charger for anything, just a USB solar charger for absolutely anything that runs on USB. LED rechargeable flashlights, your GPS, your phones, anything. Because, now you got an emergency situation. And also you don't have your phone to look up, hotel bookings or to, pay with Apple Pay or Samsung Pay or something. I mean, it's just, you need your phone. So hopefully that gives you some ideas. You could probably just think for your exact scenario, oh, I wouldn't want to leave without, like for me, it would be 30 days allergy medication. I actually have a year worth of allergy medication in my bag because, why not? It was like $35. Got to get them generics on coupon, man. And I got like 4 pairs of sunglasses because I can't go anywhere in the summer without sunglasses. My eyes just don't do bright light. So that'd be for me. I mean, for you might think, well, dog food, of course. That would not be relevant to me. So just think, what would I be leaving behind that I would absolutely need for the people or animals that are leaving with me to evacuate, probably a short distance, probably for a medium amount of time. And even FEMA says, about 2 weeks is what you should prepare for, whether you're leaving or not. You should have, 2 weeks worth of food, medical supplies, water filters, whatever, in your house or be ready to leave with about that much. Other people say 72 hours, and even that, it's like, well, is it really going to take you 3 days to travel to a safer city or state? Probably not. So, I mean, just you do you. I mean, however much you can lift, how big your bags are, that's a factor. So keep it real. You don't want to be hauling out an 80-pound bag if you're 80 years old and try and, haul that into the truck when you're in a hurry, because the last thing you need is on top of it an injury, and also the hospitals are closed. By the way, oh my gosh, basic medical care, a good medical kit. Duh, put that in your car. Don't even put it in your bug out bag. And I would say, pepper spray, self-defense, taser, but I'm not a fan of those. If you're going to buy a flashlight, and flashlight tasers are legal in your area, you might as well get the one with the taser on it. Other than that, if you have a daily carry pistol, just a box of, maybe 50 rounds in your car, in your emergency bag, just because, things might get a little tense. People might start getting a little desperate. Tensions are high, resources are low, people are panicking, they don't act rationally, or they, well, depending upon your perspective, do act rationally, which is the way that a human brain would act in a self-preservation scenario. Those would be good items to include in there. So, just a basic, let's be set and it's all in one bag. Just throw it in the car and go. And then if we have more time past just the emergency bag, then we can start thinking, okay, what would be nice? Raid the fridge, raid the pantry, raid the safe with even more paper currency, stuff a couple, more capable long rifles in the car, something, depends on your area. But it's nice to just say, okay, the bag's in the car, the baseline's covered, now how much time do we have, and now what would be nice? We've got the things we need, but what would be nice? Trade items would be nice, more blankets would be nice. You just start stuffing stuff in. When the car is full, you leave. That's pretty much how people do these things. If they have time. If they don't have time, it's like grab the bag, takes you 3 seconds to pick up a bag, and then you go out the door the same you would as if there's, something imminently going to blow up your house in 1 minute. Which that could be happening. Or you're in an apartment and the apartment building could, fall over at any point because of an earthquake or, the Lebanon explosion. That just happened. Big shockwave. Now you got no windows. It's raining. Everything's getting soaked. Your building's got cracks in the walls. Well, you got to go, and you got to go now because the building could fall over. The scenario tends to either be really fast or really within an hour you have to leave. It's usually either one or the other. So having to just pick it up on the way out, bag, okay, it's in the car, boom, let's go. And it's not like, oh, I don't have this, I don't have that, oh my gosh. Or dangerously taking, 10 minutes to pack when you have 0 minutes. That's that's not good. So having it all preset and packed ahead of time, very, very, very smart. That's why when people hear bug out bag, they're like, oh yeah, there's a mountain man gonna go live in the woods because, the government collapsed in the zombie takeover. Oh, these preppers are all insane. I would get away from that type of bug out bag and that mentality and just be like, I need an emergency bag for my family in like a real scenario. I would orient towards that. So hey, if you thought this video was very helpful, leave a big ol' like on it. Maybe share it out to social media so that your family and friends aren't calling you saying, oh, I left with nothing. What do you got? Where are you meeting up? I need to come eat your food and use all your stuff. The funny thing is they're going to hear this line after you send it to them. They're going to be like, oh, that's why they sent it to me. I see. Yeah, I see how it is. But anyway, yeah, share it out to social media. Make sure, the most people see this. Is very helpful information, obviously. And if you like this channel, which you should, I think it's pretty good, leave a subscribe on it. You can see more awesome content from EST. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next video.